You're muted, Sabine.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of our viewers who are joining us for this session of Humanity Rising. It's the 734th session since we started there back in the pandemic. And my name is Sabine von Gafke. I have the pleasure to be hosting and facilitating these conversations this week and also next week, where we will have the opportunity to meet, amazingly interesting and profound people who are doing so much work across the world when it comes to everything to regenerating our planet, to finding new ways of leading, of governance, and so forth. So it's a great pleasure to have you all here today. And also yesterday we had great conversations around how can we really get communities to come together and thrive when it both comes to governance, when it comes to farming, when it comes to how we can create sustainable communities across the world. And today we're going to get yet another example of this, as we are also going to meet three additional, yesterday we met Usman Pame, today we'll meet three heroines and heroes who are doing hands-on work that truly is not only inspirational, but remarkable, that people can give the time and effort when they come together to really prosper, thrive, and also do all these sustainable initiatives that are needed in the existence that we're in right now. We know we're in climate, we have climate change. We know that we need to retrack our ways of living, of consuming, of being, but we can do it in ways that is also incentivizing ways and that brings communities together. And today we're going to look at promoting African local creative solutions to benefit people and the planet. And it's going to be interesting to hear about how this is being done on a more hands-on basis. And we're going to go and listen to an initiative, an exhibition that was done in Kenya, where three people who we'll be meeting today have been involved in both in this exhibition, but also in local initiatives that is, of course, about education, but that is also about implementing regenerative solutions to farming, to the earth, to food, and so forth. And of course, empowering women to be part of these initiatives. So before I introduce our speakers of today, let's all just center ourselves so that we are here in this space for today's session that will run until 1 or 1.5 hours, depending on how long the presentations are. And I also want to incentivize, for example, all our viewers in the chat, do send questions, because then I can pose your questions in the end after the presentation. And then after the session, we of course have an after session where all of you are welcome to join to have after talks where you can actually directly speak to the speakers and give your interesting feedbacks and insights and questions. So with that, I'd like us to close our eyes and just find a moment to connect with our breath. Here and now. So with that, I'd like to open the space to our speakers and guests of today, and I'll give them a short introduction each. We have Teresa Mutoni, who is an very driven, passionately driven entrepreneur, but also the whole project leader of what we're going to hear about now. She has extensive experience when it comes to empowering communities based on organizations in environmental management. And her work is also involving promoting local knowledge, community dialogue for sustainable development, management of forest water resources, and also gender integration in natural resource management. And she'll also be joined by Isabel Wanyiku, who is one of the women who are actually hands-on on the ground implementing all of this. And she also takes that into storytelling. So she's here for the first time online in front of an audience to, through storytelling, really convey what they're doing on the ground and how she is mobilizing communities in Kenya, plant trees, to do water restoration, education, and so forth. And hopefully we also have the third party with us here, which is Paul Nyaga, who also is known as Wakabidi, which means give people what they want. He was born in Tharaka, which is where this exhibition and initiative has been taking place and where he lives. And he's also an established journalist with interest in events, publicity, branding, and marketing. And he's the founder of Tharaka Cultural Community Group, the first cultural festival that was organized there in 2022, last year. So with that, let's open our hearts and our minds, and I hand over the word to Teresa. Teresa, you're on mute. It happens. Let's see. Maybe we can hear.
It happened. Thank you so much for your introduction. It's so amazing to be here today. We are here to talk about promoting African local creative solutions to benefit people and the planet. And I will start it through by one of our African proverb that says, until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Yes, so we are the lion. We have to inform people on our strength, our culture, and all that. We are here to tell our stories. We believe that the creative solutions that benefit people and planet lies within us. We are the solution. Our forefathers coexisted well with other species. But as all of us know, things have really changed. There's a lot of destruction. There's a lot of feeling like humanity should be above other species. It's time we know that the moment we destroy our other species, then we are destroying ourselves. Africans are struggling to conserve, to preserve their unique culture, customs, identities, and well-being. Our grandparents did not know how to read and write. So our indigenous knowledge was passed from one generation to the other through the word of mouth. Our parents, our grandparents had a lot of time to mentor the young people. They had a lot of time to sit down and mentor the young people, but that have really changed. It is no longer there. You can see like the young people are learning a lot of things through social media. So a lot of our knowledge is almost going down. It is really going down. So I am talking about that, knowing from the time I was young, I have seen a lot of things, a lot of changes happening. Personally, when I was young, I had opportunities to sit down with our grandmothers. And we are here to tell our stories. I have interest in people, as you have been told, and they will be talking telling us more about the stories, about how they learned, about a lot of things that used to happen in terms of our culture. We have sat down as a team and realized that if we don't do it, we will lose a lot of our culture. So during a lot of my free time, I sit down with the old people and I get a lot of information from them. Some of them I have never found it in the books. Some of that information, our medicinal trees, we have a lot of medicinal trees, and some of that information is nowhere in the books. We are going to lose a lot of our knowledge if we don't have to look for an innovative way of transferring this knowledge to the next generation. So we are working with several people around the country in Kenya, and they are doing amazing activities. Like when I was having the previous webinar, I talked about some of the initiatives that we are doing, like community dialogue and eco-cultural mapping. I talked about eco-cultural mapping, how people reflect, joint reflection, analysis, and consensus building for the priorities, where people identify their priorities and they plan how to implement them, and they start implementing them. Because it's not all about grants and donors bringing money to people. A lot of issues that local people are facing, we can be able to sort it internally. Another interesting initiative that we are doing is storytelling. And I know Isabel will talk more about that and what we are doing in storytelling, and her story, her personal story. We are doing also cultural exhibition. Cultural exhibition whereby we bring people old and young to come and display or make sure that the other people are able to learn. It is an opportunity where local communities connect with each other, connect with their knowledge and practices, and analyze the situation, plan a future together. They are able to learn about the indigenous food. What were our mothers eating? They are able to learn about our indigenous songs. When were they sung? Why were they sung? They're able to learn about diversity. We have a lot of diversity in terms of native trees. So they are able to learn all that. We also have other initiatives like regenerative agriculture, which we will be able to talk maybe in the future. But today we'll be talking about storytelling and cultural exhibition. Let me invite Isabel, the storyteller. Isabel is, as you have said, as you have heard, is a storyteller, and her stories are so amazing. She always lights them. She is very good in lighting. What I'll say is that for us, the three of us, English is the third or fourth language. So she will light all those stories. Paul will also talk. He is a journalist, but a local journalist at home. So he is able to give stories in local language and tell people what is happening in the news in local language. So we are happy here and so happy, humbled to be able to talk this language and to be able to talk to everyone out there. Isabel and Paul, their story to the world. So we do appreciate, and we are going to bring more people to come and bring, because they are doing amazing work. People are doing amazing work on the ground, but not many people know what is happening on the ground. So let me introduce Isabel. Isabel always comes as a package. You cannot talk about her. I cannot talk about her without talking about her through her grandmother. And I want to just share a photo so that you can see. She always comes as a package. When I'm talking with her, she always tells me a lot of stories about her grandmother, and so on. Maybe I'll share later because I seems not to be able to share. Let's just invite Isabel. I share as she talk. Isabel, karaoke, kindly come and tell us your story. It is a conversation and we'll be able to learn a lot from what is happening on the ground, because we are based on the ground. We are based in Kenya specifically. Kenya is in East Africa, and Paul is based in the lower eastern. Isabel is in the coastal region, but originally from the central region. So they will be able to share more. So Isabel, kindly tell us more about your stories. For about a few minutes, tell us those stories.
And thank you. My name is I'm Isabella Wanjiku Karaoke, born and brought up in the central part of Kenya. Kenya is in East Africa, and currently residing in the coastal region, in specifically Kilifi County. Now, I'm an avid storyteller. Okay, I love telling stories. Something that was rubbed off from my grandmother, and I'm a passionate environmentalist. I love taking care of the environment, planting trees, finding ways to conserve our environment, of taking care of our environment, and especially through stories. Now, I grew up in central Kenya near my grandma, and that has shaped my life. That has shaped my life or my adult life, because my grandmother was a good storyteller. You can see her on the photo. That is me as a baby, and that is my grandma. I'm named after my grandma. She was Isabella. Now, my grandma she rested when she was 110 years old in 2019, meaning she had lived for a century and a decade. And as we say here in Kenya, kuishi kwingi ni kuona mengi. My grandma had lived and she had a lot to tell. And during those eras when they were young, it's not like now, they did not have formal education. She came to have formal education much, much later. When she was an adult, she had already had her kids and she had educated her kids. I think it was past the age of 60, she went to Gubaro, and that's when she learned how to read and write. But before that, she would pass her, it was all in her head. She was like a dictionary or a thesaurus, let me say, and she would pass her knowledge. She had a lot of knowledge. She was a walking thesaurus, let me say, and she would pass her knowledge. I was lucky to grow near her, and one thing I must say, we were lucky. We loved to be in her compound because there were two things. You knew for sure, you are assured, whenever you went into her compound, there was plenty of food and there was plenty of stories. And the fact that I think that part of storytelling rubbed off me, and I love traditional foods and taking care of the environment. She did a lot through her stories. She did a lot. She told many stories, like stories to teach, stories to entertain, stories that preserved our culture. In fact, she would just call you and like we would go and we are hungry, and she used to preserve her food in something we call uteos. Uteos are those something like this. Uteo is something like this. You see? So she would make mashed foods and put it there, and in her store. Nyahururu or that area we grew up is very cold, very cold. You don't need a fridge. So she would make this mashed food, whether it is mokimo, you'll see it in the photos. Mokimo, that is beans, maize, mashed with potatoes and green vegetables, and she would put in the uteos. And we would go there. We would be assured of food as much as we knew the grandkids knew. If you want to eat, if you go to Shosho's compound, my grandma, there would always be food, and she would tell us stories from you know, how she grew up, how she brought up, she got married, how she brought up her kids, and she would tell us stories and, you know, to teach us. Sometimes we would, like, let's say, like our parents, when you did something wrong, your parents would be would cherish the road, and, you know, but Shosho had, my grandma had stories to teach you lessons according to what you had done. He would have a story for that. If it was preserving our culture, he would have a story for that. There was a time we went into her compound, and there was this tree that hosted that had 2 doves who used to live there. And in our naughtiness, you know, we destroyed that nest. We were small and we destroyed that nest. And my grandma was so furious, and he was like, you know, why were you destroying that dove's nest? For what? You know, we were little and we were just having fun, and we destroyed the dove's nest. And it was like, he sat us down and started telling us stories about the environment and why we share this environment with the birds, with the animals, you know. And there was one story he told that day when we did that. And she told us about a certain young man was looking for work, and she went to, let's call him Brian. And Brian went to, he was looking for work, and he went to somebody by then, let's call him Mr. Ezra. And he went to Mr. Ezra and said, I need some work, I need to some job. And Mr. Ezra said, okay, there is no major work in my compound for you, but you can be sweeping my compound. There was a huge tree in that compound. And Brian's work would be to sweep the compound every morning and every evening, and he would get paid at the end of the month for that. Now, Brian, after some time, he got bored, and he went to his boss and told him, you know, what if we cut down this tree, and, you know, this job we have to do every morning, every evening, and so this compound will remain clean. And the boss said, okay, do it. So Brian went and cut the tree, made some charcoal, and swept the compound for the last time. And he went and told them, I have done it, see how clear the compound looks. And then the boss told him, you know what, now go and pack your things and leave. And Brian was like, why leave? I need a job. And the boss told him, Mr. Ezra told him, but your job was taking care of that. Your job was to sweep that compound, because that tree was shedding some leaves. Now you have cut it down. What else do you want to do in my compound? And he was asked to leave. Now my grandma was telling us, now you see, it might not be a direct effect on you like it did on Brian, but whenever you destroy the environment, it is going to get back. You are going to pay. At some point, you are going to pay this at some point in your life. So some other time she would come. We used to live, our village was called Gaideivia. And now sometimes he would sit us down and he would tell us, do you know how this place came to be called Gaideivia? Gaideivia in English means God help me. There used to be a huge forest in that area. So when people would come there and they would want to cut across and go to the other area, of course, where there's a forest, there are a lot of wild animals. So when you would get to that space, you would say a little prayer to your Lord and say, oh, God help me. And that's how the name stuck of that area, Gaideivia. You know, my local primary school, the one that I went to, is called Gaideivia, meaning God help me. The local secondary school is called Gaideivia Secondary School, meaning God help me. My small center, where we go and buy milk and what, is called Shauri. Shauri means you are on your own, because if you happen to have a friend and he would escort you to that place, he would tell you, now I've gotten you to this point. You are on your own. So the name stuck. Shauri Yako. We call that place, up to now, this place is called Shauri Yako. Not far from there, we have a place we call Manguo. Manguo means, in my language, means a lot of hippos. There used to be a lot of hippos because there was this lake, Lake Obosa. If you happen to visit Kenya, or you happen to come to my place in Nyahururu, you'll get to a place called, the most famous area in that is the Thompson's Falls, and there were a lot of hippos, and that's why that place is called Mangu. Mangu means a lot of hippos in my language. So my grandma used to tell us all these stories while we were, and we used to love to work even in her compound, because there would be food, there would be stories, and then you would never be bored in that place. You would never be bored. Shosho was, my grandma was very hardworking and self-sustained. Even when she was old, past 100 years, she died at 110 years of age. She still kept her garden, her vegetable garden part. And she taught us, you to say, you have to be self-reliant. This, you don't have to go to the shops. You live in the farms. You don't have to go to the shops to buy vegetables, to buy your meat. And she taught us how to do, whether rain comes or and it doesn't rain, how we would plant those food crops. You have to be self-reliant first on food crops, like maize, pumpkins, those vegetables, traditional vegetables, terere, managu. They were in plenty, spring onions. In fact, the garden she left when she died, those onions, they survived. They're still there. They're still there now. She taught us how to be self-reliant before you go out there. And the most amazing thing is that, to show you, my grandma never went to the shops to buy, to the market to buy vegetables. She always had, whether it come rain, come sunshine, she would teach us how to do, mulching, so that our vegetables would survive even the hot season. Yeah, so things I remember most is how he would tell us, how he brought up his children, her children. Now my parents would say, now, like we would want to make fire, and there was this, you would use paraffin. You would come with paraffin and you want to pour it onto the firewood, and he would say, no, you don't do that. He taught us how to do a bottle, and a small hole, a needle like hole, so that you can, very little, conserve fuel. She would say, you need to conserve everything. Fuel, you just don't pour paraffin on the kunis. So on the part of the food, that's what we loved most. To show prepared good meals, and you didn't have even to those mashed foods. Maize, he taught us how to roast maize, green maize, and how to boil maize, And whenever you went to her compound, pumpkins, and you boil pumpkins, you see, jahe, and all this would come from her farm. I suppose it was a small farm, but it was available. If it's not the maize, the season of the maize, there would be sweet potatoes. If not the season of the sweet potatoes, there would be potatoes, And the fact that she kept some 3 cows, some 3 cows for so many years. I think I grew up knowing those cows by their name, like they were part of my family. There were 3 cows she kept for a very long time, like Yameni. They had names, and we knew them by name, like they were part of our siblings. Yeah. So being in her compound meant that you had milk, you had good meals. Yeah. You had fun, because she would always be telling stories. Now, when with the time I learned to take everything as a story that can be told. Let me say it rubbed me off. I would be looking at this, even this meeting I'm having. This is a story that will be told in sometimes later. I learned to look at everything as a story, everything. The way she embarrassed, the way she embraced everything, and the joy she had in working, for like our generation, going to the farms is a task. We feel like no, we need to be in the office. For her, it was a joy. She taught me to feel this is a joy. Eating your own food, taking care of your meal, that you look at your meal on the table and you feel this is what I produced. And she taught us to embrace agriculture, to embrace producing our own food and have fun while doing it. Yeah. So I would say we have so rest in peace, but we carry her legacy on. We will carry her legacy on, as in, all those things that were said, but she said, were not recorded on print or written on any paper. And even those times we did not have phones or shows, she would just tell by word of mouth. And we would, over time, I have realized I should have recorded all these things. So I try to correct all those things she told me, and story by story I've run. I would recall a story, try to write it on my Facebook page and tell it as it was. With the time I've run to record all those things she told me. Yeah, and that's how I came into storytelling. I realized, I realized, okay, there's something I can do, and I can tell, even starting with my family, I can tell whatever my grandma told me and pass it on to my kids, even if we did not record at that time. Maybe this time we are lucky to have all these gadgets and record everything that we do in our lives. But that time, there was no phones, there was nothing. It was just a word of mouth. So there's a lot of stories that I may not be able to tell because this is my first webinar. But with time, I'll be able to tell. I will be able to tell all those stories that were passed on to me by my grandma, and hoping her memories and all that she said will be preserved by our children, by our community. We'll be able to tell our stories all over the world. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Isabel. That's amazing. As Isabel have told you, she have talked about Shosho. Shosho is grandmother. So that's the local name about Shosho. So she talked about Gaidedia. The reason why it was called Gaidedia, God help me, is because Isabel grew up in one of the most forested part of Kenya. The central region used to have a lot of diversity of trees, such that there were even wildlife. So if you just go to that forest, sometimes you will find even wildlife. So they have to be very careful. So they had to pray God as they move around the forest, because it was a big forest. Another thing that she talked about is growing your own food. By the way, her grandmother and my grandmother and our grandmothers were not using chemicals. As we talk now, a lot of people are using chemicals to plant, to grow their food. They are using a lot of chemicals, some of which they even don't know. They have imported from outside. So that's why we are having a lot of diseases happening. So it's time for our people to know our grandmothers knew the way, and they were doing it. And our solutions are not in those fertilizers and all that, those chemicals that people are using. Our grandparents used to grow food and to eat very healthy. And maybe Isabel forgot to tell you that She never saw her grandmother going to hospital for very many years. She never went to hospital. So we are the people who are destroying ourselves. And one of the stories she talked is about how cutting that trees made that guy not get a job. The job just disappeared. So whatever people are doing, destroying the environment, destroying the trees, is that we are destroying ourselves. We are destroying our future. We are destroying our future generations. So it is time for all of us to know that let us make sure that we coexist well with our environment. Let us make sure that we know that destroying our environment, destroying other species, we are not like so superior that we should destroy other species. We should know that all these species has a light to live. So we need to make sure our biodiversity is very important and we should not destroy. So thank you so much, Isabel. We have heard your story and people are commenting and appreciating your amazing storytelling. And I know like this being the first and you have done amazing for sure. We will continue. Maybe I just realized Paul have left, but we can have one of the video so that we can go to the next. We will get the video, Atharaka food video, because we have 42 tribes in Kenya, and each of the tribe have their own culture, have their own naming system, have their own food. So Isabel comes from Agikoyo community. We have Paul who comes from the Tharaka community, and there is this exhibition that was held last month. What we are doing is that we are holding exhibition so that people can, this is an innovative way of bringing young people and the old people to come together to share knowledge, because we have realized like these social media and phones have made people not to learn the basics, and we are losing our old people. So it is time for them also to make sure that they are learning. So this is one of the innovative ideas that we have come up with. We will be having exhibition, these cultural exhibition where a lot of people from a same community come together and share their knowledge, share their food, eat their local food, and they are able to show the young people how the food were being cooked. They are able to sing those indigenous dances, what each of the dances used to be done for a specific reason. When people were harvesting, when they had bumper harvest, they used to dance, they used to sing. When they have a specific initiative, initiation from younghood to adulthood, they used to do a lot of singing. So those songs had advisory, it was part of mentorship for the young generations. So in terms of food, let's share the one of you can be able to see just 2 minutes where you will be able to see the women being shown how to cook local Tharaka food. Thank you.
De sawa.
Wow, thank you so much. That's they used to make their own flour. There was nowhere that they were going to get. They used to get cereals from their own farms. They make their, you can see that woman who is doing like this. They used to use, there's a log that is used to make that flour, and they are able to cook their own food. That specific food is called kadongo. I wish Paul was here. Paul have issues with his internet, but he can tell you more about that, because it's amazing. And if the young people are able to, and very nutritious food that have no chemicals, and very okay for even especially women who have been able, who have given birth, or who have just gotten kids. Paul, can you hear me? Okay. So thank you so much. So the next aspect is that
I'll just come. I don't know whether you come
yes.
off network in my side. Network,
Okay.
rightly.
Okay. Are you able to talk, Paul? You can tell us more about kadongo and the Atharaka food.
Okay.
Paul, can you hear me?
Can you hear you now?
Yes. Tell us more about the food, the Tharaka food. We have just seen an
There's
amazing
a very big problem with
video
my network. Can you get me, Teresa?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay. Seems like Paul
Actually,
network.
you have seen the Tharaka food from the cultural festival, or the cultural exhibition that was. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Paul.
Can you get me? Now, the pictures that, or the photos that, the video that you have seen were recorded in our last event. That was the Tharaka Cultural Exhibition, whereby and gathered more than 3,000 people in our area. That's in Tharaka, who came actually to, you know, to celebrate or to exhibit what they used to do in the past. There's a video that you've seen with some women singing or having some dances. Actually, in Tharaka, or in the community that I come from, there were very many.
Paul, can I say, let me first talk about food, then I'll put a video in the next few minutes. I'll put a video of the women dancing, so that now you can talk about dances. Talk about food. If you're done with the food, then I can be able to put the video about food, about the dances.
Okay, initially, thank you, Teresa. Initially, there was the food that is being taken now is not the food that was taken in the past. For instance, or for example, in the past, people used to grind, or people used to use the flour from millet, cowpeas, beans to make the ugali. But now people are taking rice, spaghetti, those funny food. Now, from the video that you'll see now, those women were preparing the ugali, which was made of the ugali that was a mixture of cowpeas, flour from millet, leaves from cowpeas. Then they could cook. Actually, the food was very strong comparing to the food that we are currently taking.
Wow, thank you so much, Paul. Amazing. So that's why I was saying we are the people who are destroying ourselves. If we could, we have heard that our grandmothers used not to go to hospitals. That's why you have heard Paul say the food that people in our forefathers used to eat was very healthy. And that is what we want people to know, that it's possible to be healthy without going to hospital every day. So it is time we think about regaining our health. And regaining our health means we should make sure that we are growing, bringing back our indigenous food, bringing back our indigenous knowledge, because that knowledge could have gone with our indigenous people. So that's why we hold that amazing event that was led by Paul, and more than 3,000 people came. That shows that it is one of the events that attracted a lot of people, because people want to learn, but they don't know where. They don't know who is able to share this information. So the moment we bring them together, they're able to get all that information. Thank you so much. I'll also share a video showing the dances, the local dances, because a lot of information used to be passed through songs. And as I had said, there was songs for each of the activities. There were initiation songs. There were songs during when the children were born. There were songs for different aspects. And that used to bring people together. Nowadays, people rarely meet as even families. People used to come together so that they were able to learn a lot as the communities. So let's just dance together with these amazing people on some of our local dances. Wow, amazing. Maybe let me just give Paul some few minutes to tell us about those dances. What are they talking about? You will be able to tell us just briefly about what they are talking about.
Okay, to start with, Teresa, there's a song that you're saying, Nkaomba, Nkaomba. Okay, that, okay. You have said that initially we said that songs in our community were used either for initiation, for celebrations. Like the first song, they were saying Nkaomba, Nkaomba. That means that now they are happy for the good harvest that they had for the millet and cowpeas, peas. Okay, initially the first song was for the celebration. Now the second one, they were speaking. They was morally supporting the boy child who was now ready to be now circumcised. Let me use that term. Who was now to be circumcised tomorrow. Initially, in the past, people could gather at certain home, whereby, for instance, if we can say, my home, there's a boy child who was supposed to be
initiated.
Paul, we have lost you all. It's me who have lost.
No, he was speaking and all of a sudden he disappeared, but he's still in the.
Oh yeah, he was talking about the songs and specifically that specific song when there's initiation, which is a competition for boys, especially when they grow from they are from children to adulthood. There were some dances organized before the specific day, and there was a lot of mentorship that was happening. Sometimes it happens through that kind of dances, and information used to come through those specific songs. A lot of songs, our African songs, all of them have specific message, and they were specific, and each of the community have their specific song for specific aspect of their life or events that are happening, and it used to bring people together to dance together. You can see how they are doing it very well together. So amazing. We have lost Paul, but I know like in future we can be able to share more of this annual. We will be doing this in different communities in Kenya, even in Africa, other countries. We believe that it is possible to do it so that we can be able to, for people to continue having or be able to preserve our culture, our songs that were so good and so nice, and very few people know them right now. Very few people are able to connect with them. So we are trying to see to it that we are able to get. And I know like there's a lot of questions in the chat, and I know we will be able to be responding. Sabine, I think now people can ask questions and we can see what we can be able to respond, what we cannot, we can be able to take it to the next, the chat session.
Amazing. And first of all, thank you, all three of you. I mean, what an amazing, Teresa, Isabella. I don't know if Paul, if he's rejoining us. I mean, such a beautiful example of the sense of community, but that is also synchronized in so many aspects. I mean, one thing is the educational part, then it's the actual labor part, but then also, like you say, the culture, the dancing, the music, the food, that sort of really makes this consensus that we all are interconnected, and it becomes so apparent, so beautiful. And also that this can be revived. And like you say, that the future of the youth and the elders, that's because that is part of the evolution of life from youth to elder, and that they can also, you know, learn from each other. So thank you so much for showcasing that, and congratulations to the festival. I mean, 3,000 people, that is, wow, you know, amazing to see. And also what you pointed out, that all of these people, there are so many people, I think it's whether it's in Africa, whichever continent around the world, who really want to be able to understand how to acclimatize to change, or how to become more sustainable, or learn more about their cultural heritage. They just don't really know where to turn to. And that's also why it's so applaudable that you know, people like yourselves give these platforms to people to come and to sort of pick what they find nourishes them, but at least they have a place to go for that nourishment. We have a lot of questions. I'll start with, let me see, I saw that in here, I had a few. One was from, and I think someone else, we mentioned it, that said, you know, are people, when it comes to cooking and preparing food out of a sustainability perspective, if you know if people are using solar cookers instead of burning wood to prepare meals?
Oh, thank you so much. That's an amazing question. We have a lot of organization, and we are also training people to diversify their cooking technology. I know it's not easy because traditionally people used to use firewood, but one of the aspects that we are doing is to make sure that people are using, they have jikos, or those jikos that are use less firewood. So if you are using a lot of it, then you reduce the amount of firewood, because sometimes you cannot change culture in one day. So, but also there's a lot of people who are encouraging people to use alternative fuel or alternative energy sources. So several of them have introduced them, and a lot of people also are supporting. You know, we have natural forests, and we have people who are living allowed households. So alternative is to look for trees that they can be able to plant near their households, so that they can be able to reduce the pressure of the natural forests, so such that they are able to plant trees which they can be able to prune. They do pruning. They don't cut trees. Some of the trees that we promote through through our initiatives is those trees that they can be able to prune and be able to get firewood, but not cutting the whole of the tree. Anyway, there are also some people who are still cutting trees. Those issues are still there. It's not possible to change a community or to change people in a day, but we are looking at how people used to coexist well with the environment. How are our forefathers? How are they doing it? How are they surviving? They were able to collect only wood that is dead. They used not to cut the trees that was standing. They used to use the fuel or twigs of the trees that have fallen down. But people have really changed, and that is the destruction that is happening. And that is why we are there. We are here to make sure people understand. We need to make sure that we are not destroying our water sources. Kenya depends on those forests, 5 main water towers or forests for water, for farming and all that. So if they are destroyed, then we don't have a country. And not only in Kenya, it is a lot, the bigger part of Africa. We depend on rain-fed agriculture. So if we don't have rain, that means destruction of our livelihoods. So we have lost a lot of our livers. Most of our livers come from those mountains. So if we continue to destroy our trees, our forests, that means drying of our livers. That means also we are losing tons and tons of soils that is going, and we'll never get it back. How are our forefathers doing it? There was no destruction of livers. By the way, there is this story about how the rivers along the streams. You are not supposed to cut any tree along the rivers, especially in our culture. Anybody who destroy any tree along the stream was supposed to be punished, because along the streams, you are not supposed even to touch any tree, even the ones that have fallen down, you are not supposed to touch, because those are life stream of people. So that is why we are trying to reason. People have been planting trees. A lot of donors have been donating a lot of money, go plant trees, environmental projects, livelihood projects, but we are not seeing a lot of changes. Can we try to sit down and ask, how can we get our indigenous knowledge and bring it and think about how our forefathers living with the environment, coexisting well with the environment. So thank you so much.
And it's such an important thing to convey, you know, that here we are, you know, 2023 and the enlightened species, we have technology that is you know, supposed to enhance humanity. And yet, like you're saying, when it comes to the basic fundamental ways of how we can integrate with nature in a way that makes nature thrive and humanity thrive is sort of the golden treasure of our ancestors, indigenous and our ancestors. And it's surprising when you think about it, speaking with, you know, now listening more to you, that we've really lost that intention. But of course, then you look at the commercial aspect of all the companies, the Monsantos and everything, you know. But there's an echo there. Talked about yesterday. Someone has an echo. Let's see. Like we talked about yesterday, one, you know, in order to create the future, we do need to know our past. And also now is the time when there's so many local initiatives sprouting out around the world. And it's through that organic way that we will also be able to really have change on a larger scale. So including also Isabella and Paul. So Isabella, when you, thank you so much as well for conveying, you know, the importance of storytelling, sharing all those stories and pictures of, you know, that we can really see everything that's happening on ground. Do you find that storytelling is also a tool that the community, both youth and elders, are utilizing more and more to really incentivize people to, you know, have the energy and the focus to want to do this?
Yeah, just a point to add on what Teresa is saying, like what I'm doing with the Mairoko village here, yes. We are encouraging, as much as we are planting those trees that take a long time to grow, the indigenous tree, you know, those trees go for a tree to mature takes like 30 years. We are also encouraging these women on the ground to plant these trees that take 1 year, to use that for firewood, because they grow very fast. And then if you have a cow, or use alternative energy like biogas. I would like to add on what Teresa was saying, whatever we are doing to encourage our local people not to cut the trees that were, you know, the trees that has always been there. You know, you encourage, and in fact, the fact that you are going to cut to get firewood from a tree that you planted, of course you'll be careful, of course you'll feel the pain of cutting down a tree if you are the one who planted it. So we encourage these ladies on the ground to use alternative energy, that is biogas, and to plant those trees that if eventually they need firewood, they should plant those trees that grow very fast. There are many trees that grow very fast. For 6-7 months, it has got some, you know, and you won't have to cut it down. You just you will prune it and get those branches and use for firewood. You know, those are the efforts that the retro small steps we are taking to encourage people not to go to the forest and cut down our major trees. And then on the part of storytelling, there is a lot of, you know, just to give an example, like when I'm in Kilifi County right now, and when I came here, there was this tree that we call the Afenesi. I don't know, it's jackfruit in English.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, jackfruit. So I found mature trees. And I wanted to plant, and my local people would tell me, you can't plant that. You know, that they have this notion that if you planted that tree, you are not going to live to see its fruit. And you know, you tell these are the stories that you gather up and tell. You go and tell these women, and you know, get those stories. Because I would, for example, I would come with one time I came with that at home, and my shaba boy, the person who helped me in the farm, I told her, okay, preserve the seeds. We need to plant that. And I had this bamboo, the bamboos, the cutting.
Yeah.
Yes, the cuttings. I brought home some cuttings, and I told him, now we are going to plant this. Bamboos are very good for cleaning the air, the carbon and such. And he was like, Mama, we cannot do this. If you plant these trees, if you plant unless you're not going to live to see it. They believe that. Those are the stories that I gather, and you have to gather these stories and know the people and their beliefs, so that you can be able to talk to them and encourage them. These notions that we have, like where you plant a jackfruit that you are going to die young. A jackfruit, let's say, matures in 25, 30 years, and you are not going to live to see its fruit. No. And you gather those stories so that you can take them out to, when you next meet, you discuss, why do you think this is so? Why do you think you should not plant these trees? And they will give you those stories. There was somebody somewhere who did this, there was somebody, you see, and then you encourage them, to put aside some of these beliefs. Like the babu, they would say, the babu, if you planted a babu, it will send you away from your home. That's what they said. And the story was passed from one mouth to the other, from one person to the other. And when you dig deep into it, it meant that, this babu expands. It expands. So where you plant it, it is going to expand and expand. If it's on a border with your neighbor, of course, it's going to go to the other side and bring problems. That's what they meant when they said it is going to send you away from your home. You see? But when it is passed from one person to the other, it is lost. And they say, we don't plant those trees because it's going to send you away from your home. And those are the stories I gather. And then we discuss, we get them out there. Just like, that's why I'm saying storytelling is my thing.
And storytelling is, the way how we can emotionally connect to something, whether it's a story or you emotionally connect to a story, and we start to emotionally connect to nature, to trees, it sort of feels like we have to relearn this a lot. And I think when we talk about trees, it's so fascinating, that trees, they have this intrinsic system where they support each other. I mean, trees are such a reflection of how humanity could, have a system of supporting each other. That, when a tree is ill or when something's happening, all the trees through the soil go in and give it nourishment and so forth. It's amazing. It's amazing what nature, beauty and awe of everything that we have in this world, that we seem to have, taken for granted. But now initiatives are sort of growing where we get more cultivated and educated. And Paul, also you, to sort of bring you back into the conversation. You're known as Wakabidi, if I said that correctly. Give people what they want is what I understand is sort of the easy translation. But coming from Tarakidi and that tribe, what do you find now that you've done the festival? Do you find that this is really, people are yearning to want to understand, and that you see that this is something that can really scale and grow, especially in the African continent where it goes, very quick, and you have a younger demographic as well? Are you with us, Paul? Can you hear us?
Paul, can you hear?
Okay, I can get you.
Yeah, you can hear us?
I can hear you. Pardon the question?
Oh, you can hear us. I just wanted to know, as you've been very involved as well, and you also, have a lot of heritage on your side, and now after you organized this festival, or all of you mutually did, where you incentivized it, do you find that, the communities, that this is really having a ripple effect, that many other communities are wanting to do the same, that this is sort of expanding?
Okay. Actually, the number that I've told you that attended our last festival, it was around 3,000 people. 3,000 people. It doesn't mean that they all come from our area. We have got very many people like I come from Tharaka Nithi. Kenya has got 47 counties. We had visitors from Western Gishu County, we had visitors from Mombasa County, we had visitors from Nairobi County, all corners of Kenya. They had come there. That means now people want to know more about their culture. People want to get more about, or people want to know, to have all this kind of event in their areas.
Yeah. So what is next in line for all of you? Is it creating a new festival? Of course, continuing the amazing work that you're already doing, and I know partnering with different NGOs. I know, Teresa, for example, One Tree Planted, you're engaged with that, and I also know that because we've donated 100,000 trees to them and created an NFT to give donations on chain. But what is sort of the next in line? What is in focus? And then after that, I'd like to know, how can people help? Where can they donate? How can they, contribute?
Yeah, we have a lot of plans. We have a lot of plans. Maybe Paul will also give, but as a communities, we want to see solutions coming from within. So we have a lot of plans. Like I am amazed by Isabel, especially. She have a tree nursery and she doesn't sell trees for now. She just donates trees to schools. She donates trees to the neighborhood to make sure that they are also planting trees. We want to make sure that beyond that, can we be able to expand? Because she was telling me all those stories about the areas, how the area that she's living is like she takes some photos and said to me and tell me, oh, this area have no trees. I need to make sure that I donate these seedlings that I'm doing. And I know like she have a lot of other work that she is doing, but we want to expand the work that we are doing in terms of our native trees. As people who are doing amazing work in terms of what Paul and the team we are doing in terms of the cultural exhibition. We have a lot to do. I know like when the other one was happening is like we just were worried like how do we prepare this, but it was amazing. That was amazing, and we would want to be doing this in many of our counties and countries. Mm-hmm. So I know that the team, these are just two. We have a lot of people in different counties who can be able to help in organizing all those events. It's only that sometimes resources can be less, but there's a lot of work ongoing. We are happy to continue bringing more with the initiatives that they are doing. Thank you so much. This platform is so amazing, having given us this opportunity to share what we are doing. This is so amazing and showing the work that these people are doing. This to me is a side, is a passion. This is a passion. I also work with One Tree Planted as a job, but this is a passion to see to it that the people who are doing amazing work on the ground are able to come out and they're able to tell their stories. So having them here and maybe making sure that we are expanding this, that will be amazing. And anybody who will want to get in touch with us, she can be able to get, he or she can be able to get in touch with us and we can be able to discuss. If we want to help one of the cultural exhibition, a tree nursery for Isabel, storytelling, documentation of Isabel's stories, because I know she have not liked it. I have always told her, can you write a book on those stories because you have a lot of them. So there's a lot that can happen, and I know like we'll be able to be sharing more on that. And if you want to hear more, or reach out to us, we can share our email addresses so that you can be able to reach to us.
And I'm just thinking for those who, because in the chat we can post that, for those who are listening on other platforms, what is the easiest way? Is it the website, just so we can sort of put it out verbally here as well, so people can note? If you want to do donations, if you want to contribute in any way, if you want to come in contact, then they go to.
Yes, we are currently developing our website. It's not complete. So once complete, we will be able to share with you and you will be able to share all the information about how people can participate, because we have all these people with their stories and we want all these stories to go out there.
Yeah, and if not, as you can all reach out to Teresa Tony on your LinkedIn to start with, if you don't have a website, just so that we can sort of incentivize people if they feel that they really want to reach forward. And I also want to incentivize all of you three, and of course, all of our listeners and everyone in our chat as well. Do join the after chat. We always have an after chat after each and every session. You know, all the dedicated, passionate, and insightful listeners and speakers come together and really cultivate the conversation even more and look at solutions or just, you know, feedback. So it really is a spin-off that I encourage people to dip into. So the off chat, the link is in the chat function here in our Zoom call. And also with that, I want to thank you three so much for, you know, taking the time to be with us here today. And above all, for all the tireless, compassionate, and truly important work and that you're contributing within your communities, but that also has a ripple effect across the world, because we need trailblazers and heroes and heroines who, you know, are conduits for this to inspire others. And it's amazing that we can at least, you know, offer this platform to shine light on everything that you're doing, and to also that gives an echo effect across the world. So thank you so much for being such beautiful beings, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we'd love to, you know, ask you to join us back, and we can have sort of a recap of how everything is going. And I also want to mention tomorrow, of course, we have a new session every day, Monday to Friday, between 5 to 6:30 CET. And tomorrow we're sort of changing a bit the topic. We're looking, you know, how spirituality and science are integrated or not, depending on what you believe. And the theme is holofractographic integral spiritual practice. So looking at the connectivity of spirituality and science, and also the multi-perspective approach that spirituality has. It's found in 3 perspectives of integral spiritual practice that, if for example, Ken Wilber speaks a lot about. But it's tomorrow we have an amazing woman who'll be talking about this. Her name is Carol Boy. She has an engineering career at IBM since, I think, 45 years back. But today she holds an AS in chemical engineering, a Bachelor of Science in chemistry, and an MA in transpersonal psychology, and PhD in wisdom studies. So she's definitely 360 degrees when it comes to spiritual practice. So do join us tomorrow, and thank to each and every one of you for listening in. And please remember, we all have a part to play. So let's be the change that we want to see in any ways that we can do this together. So thank you so much. Take care. Honoring all of you, and have a beautiful and blissful day, evening, wherever you are in the world.
You too. You too. God bless you.
God bless you too. Namaste.
Thank you so much for the follow-up.